So we'll go over to Swaeny, and Swaeny is waiting for us. All right, so stage is yours. Your theme is going to be playing the system, games, and culture of optimization. We're looking forward to it.
But everything I've been following so far has been super interesting, and definitely the last presentation, I see so much overlap with my own research. So I will start with a quick introduction of myself. My name is Swaeny Nina. I know my first name is a little bit difficult to pronounce, so you can just call me Nina. I'm a PhD candidate at the Open University of Catalonia, in Barcelona, where the weather is actually a bit better than over there in Hamburg, I expect. I will now try to share my screen so you can actually see my slide. About a second. So the title of my presentation is Playing the System, Games, and the Culture of Optimization. And what you see right here is not only my affiliation with the university, as I just told you, but also a screenshot from the game innen. And I should say upfront that I'm not really like a hardcore gamer in the traditional sense. I do like board games a lot, and with video games, I would say I'm more a casual gamer. But I got completely fascinated by the Eve universe, and I think plenty of you might know Eve Online, which has been around for about a decade or maybe even longer. And I do think, that being said, there is a lot of interesting crossovers and a lot of interesting interdisciplinary approaches, as already been mentioned in the previous presentation, where there's a great potential for game studies to actually be more integrated in other fields of scholarly studies, such as sociology and philosophy, but overall media studies. I think the approach of video games is super interesting. So in my talk, I will basically offer a very critical reading of eFrontier, which is this game, and it is still in its early alpha stage, which makes it even more interesting for me to approach, because a lot of things are happening, ongoing, and the players of this game, they are referred to as riders. They are actively involved in the creation of this game. And maybe this video game, more than other games, is actually involving the players in its creation, not only in its narrative world building, but in its game mechanics as well. And I will unpack this later within my presentation. So please bear with me. But before I do, well, you can read the slide, of course. But before I delve into it a little bit deeper, I will slightly deviate from eFrontier. And quickly drop this here, Defying Gravity. I came across this really casual, basic game mechanic, which, well, is in British called teeter-totter. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the German word. It's the seesaw. It's this plaything where players are situated at both sides, and well, actually you need two players, and a lot of the games I am playing right now, especially the board games, are two-player games, where this is a very big difference from eFrontier, where it is a massive multiplayer universe, open universe, and stripping it back to this teeter-totter, to this going back and forth, jumping up and jumping down, and relying on each other for the game to function, is a thing that I will highlight throughout this presentation, but which is also at the core of my PhD thesis, which I'm writing right now about player dynamics in digital gameplay. So to illustrate it this a little bit further, I will go to the next slide, which is a quote from Dr. Ruha Benjamin. And she actually, I met her last week. She spoke here in Barcelona. And somewhere in her book, she states that the importance of play not simply as an escape from the harsh realities of the world, but as a confrontation with our unavoidable interdependence. I want us to consider what are the risks of calling the teeter-totter a spectacle, or to use another term often applied to such artistic gestures, performative. And here she is not referring to the teeter-totter I'm referring to. It's not the silly thing you're looking at right here, but she's actually referring to an artwork. I think it was placed in 2019 at the border of the US and Mexico by Rael Sanfratello. And there's a lot of politics and activism at play here, and therefore she refers to performativity of performance, which is quite often something mentioned when games turn political. But this is not the purpose or not the play I want to aim at right here, even though there is a lot of politics involved within both my text and well, playing games in general, but definitely within the universe of eFrontier. So this is again a screenshot from eFrontier. And within eFrontier, I think it's not as much the question of regulating bodies as it is with the teeter-totter, but it is indeed about regulating spaceships in space and regulating play and borders, and it is about gaining territories, and it is very much about optimization. And the optimization within gameplay in general, but more or less even more present in video games, optimization regulates behavior. And it's not so much the question of who crosses or who is included, but it's more a mathematical equation of computation. And it's more a question of who owns the game world. And at the core of this analysis lies the position of the player within a narrative of self-optimization. And digital games organize this experience through procedural systems, through rules and rewards and economies and leveling and metrics. These are, well, abstractions from quotes I took from the players themselves while analyzing their play. And I will read a bit of what they have been saying. Quite often I follow their play either through live streams or through their Discord channel. And somewhere while playing, they stated, I mine, I collect ore, I calculate distance, 900,000 astronomic units, then another 1,200 astronomic units. I wait, I refuel, I check my social media, and maybe I have to self-destruct if I run out of fuel. And somewhere else, in another gaming session, I came across this quote. 5 minutes, you can do 20 jobs, you can make 100 steel, or you can make 200,000 all at once, if you divide them into batches. And I think this is this way of thinking is really about the values of competitiveness and more even so about efficiency and constant improvement of both the gamer, both the rider, and their environment, where all play is ranked and rated, and all playing behavior is nudged towards this legibility of the system through symbolic objects such as leaderboards, but also through astronomical units. An upgrade loops, the game encodes an ideology of achievement, which is centered around the continuity of the game. And in every moment of apparent freedom, open exploration, or even narrative choice, making lore, for example, the underlying structures of the video game tend to privilege decision making aligned with instrumental rationality of get good. So in a counter argument, I know this is not something new and it's not something I came up with, but here I'm giving us sort of a teaser of my writing. I propose to explore idling a bit more. And in idling, well, you can read the slide as well, but it becomes more a strategy, a different strategy of survival, because, well, of course, Frontier is a game of survival. And I think with many games, it's, well, not so much maybe of the last man standing, but it is about, well, killing off the competition. And idling is something that happens quite frequently in Eve Frontier, where players find themselves in hostile spaces and they rely upon each other. So looking back at the teeter-totter and maybe in a massive expanding situation, what I'm saying here, maybe some of you can recognize it as well. But to make my argument even stronger, I will propose another critical deviation from traditional gameplay, and this is unlearning. It's about unlearning how to play, and this is also something Dr. Rua Benjamin mentions quite often. And I would say that I like, well, being a casual gamer and all, but yeah, as a scholar and also as an artist, I engage with imaginary and material and symbolic forms of world building that don't always fit into the traditional system. And here play becomes a form of meaning making, a form of creating and interpreting codes, where games then are not merely technologies, but social technical objects. And they are products of all of our imaginations. And all of our imaginations are a collaborative system. They are a collaboration between designers of the game and their players. And I know various scholars before, like especially in game studies, reminds us that games function as both systems, as objects with rules, but also as activities, which was definitely mentioned in the gameplay approach in the last slide, which I loved a lot. Games are cultural practices of play, and they are motivational inversions, where reward is reorganized in a way that players pursue challenges beyond their own sake, beyond the mechanic of winning the game. And understanding this as an inevitable and critical part of games, their significance extends beyond the digital format, the digital file or product of the video game, beyond formal mechanics, and they become relational platforms. And I want to stress this relationality, where the structure in which the game is placed is part of the experience, where multiple interactions can take place and where values can be reshaped. So I'm moving away from the traditional idea of the magic circle, and I think it's very interesting to propose a reading of game where games exist as part of ordinary life, not as isolated. And I would say in digital culture, and definitely talking to Void right now, since I'm only looking at my own slides in the stream, the boundaries between off and online play are very porous. And the logic of play and the logic of digital mediation seeps into everyday social systems. And economic and political rationalities infiltrate these systems as well. And play becomes a form of engagement in which time and space are differently represented. But they are still there and they're still part of the everyday experience. And each player therefore constructs its own temporality, its own rhythm of engagement while engaging with others. And that's totally fine. Players just have to behave and make the rules according to the structure. And I think therefore unlearning the system is very, very much part of this logic and very much part of being able to play within the social and relational construct of digital time, space, place, and reward. So I'm almost through my slides. Bear with me for the last two. Navigation to negotiation. What values might emerge if we stopped tokenizing progress? And this is a question that is, I think, very, very interesting, and I don't have the answer, to be perfectly honest. But I do think that a qualitative reading of these digital tokens, of progress bars, metrics, astronomic units or digital units, show that design is not a neutral thing, and sites of ideology become operational. In navigating these spaces, users negotiate between freedom and constraint, creativity and control. They roam with pre-programmed boundaries, finding moments of meaning and resistance as they remain subjects of the system. So to conclude, I have a final slide, which I will not read out loud, but I just want to state that ideally, contrary to playing e-frontier, cooperation, playing together is care, is taking care. And it's not about expanding the qualities, but it's actually about building strength to a quality of making connections. And I hope you all have been able to follow it this far. I will not end my slides, and thank you so much for listening.
Well, thank you very much for being here, Nina. I think we can give you a hand. That was quite interesting. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. But are there any questions here which are urgent to Nina? No, I don't. You can't see us, right, Nina?
Can't see you, unfortunately.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Next year, I promise I will be there. I'd love to visit Hamburg.
Oh, it's okay. We would love to have you here. Well, thank you very much for being part of this, and yeah, wish you the best. So we will continue here at the speakers corner at 5 p.m. And until then, you can grab a coffee or anything. Okay, also um 5 Uhr geht's hier weiter. Thank you, Nina. Bye.